All right. So for the Protestant faith for the St. Louis Council, what we do is we send out postcards once we've gotten the list from Pray Publications, and you can send an email to Jason or to Deb in that office. They will run you a list for your specific council. There are some councils I've heard of that will do both the Boy Scouts and the Girl Scouts and American Heritage Girls and all of the different programs that use Pray that geographically live in their council borders and send the stuff out to everybody as one event. But we send out a letter that includes an RSVP postcard so that they can tell us what award they've earned in the last year and let us know that they're coming and how many people are coming with them. And we showcase the patch on the postcard. It's kind of our incentive of, hey, you come, you get a patch, because we're Scouters and we love patches. So we have that we do. With that, we also have a flyer that we will put out at all of our district roundtable meetings. Within our council, we have 23 or 24 districts, and so every district has a roundtable every month, and we get the information out as a bunch of flyers that they can pick up for any event that's going on. So it recognizes them. We tell them that there's a cake and a punch reception, and we invite them to come. We invite them to bring their pastor with them. We invite them to bring their family members. We don't really put a limit on how many people they can bring with them. Typically, we'll see family units that will come together. And then when we are there, we'll do a ceremony, which I'm going to show you guys some pictures from. But we recognize them with a certificate from our own Protestant Religious Relationships Committee as well. We encourage them to have their actual medals or their pins or their patches presented at their church or their troop meetings, etc. This is just that above and beyond recognition, congratulating them for getting it. We have displays there about the Bible Basics program. We have displays on the future religious awards they can earn. We even have the medals from other faiths there to help expand their knowledge level. So those are the certificates they get. But what I wanted to show you was some photos from the 2015 one that we did. Hopefully it'll load up quickly for me. Gotta love technology. We'll look at it in a small version until it decides if it's gonna load or not. I think I got too much going on my computer today. So we do a couple of sheet cakes during the reception, and we'll get the local cake shop to put the religious emblems onto them. We go to the dollar store, pick up a bunch of tablecloths because it just makes it look a whole lot more formal to have tablecloths, and the centerpieces might be balloon weights or other things from other Scout events that we bring up with them. Okay, so depending on the year, the cakes will look different. Every year there's a new patch. The patch will have some type of design in them on what the message is, because we do an actual service where we'll bring up individual Scouts to do different readings. We'll sing a few songs. We'll have a message of some type. The Gideon group provides New Testament Bibles that each person receives. You can see the Duty to God emblem and displays. We'll bring in this year that you're seeing, the AME Church performed the flag ceremony section. All sorts of different groups. Some will bring their sisters. If they bring a younger sister or an older sister, and as a Girl Scout they earned this, because this was 2015's, we will have extra certificates and we'll fill one out so they also get them. And then they all get to come up and get their certificate. And then towards the end, we have the cake and punch. And the amount of people that will stick around for that reception, and they'll share resources from their units of what types of faith events did they do that year. And it's a great way of encouraging those scouts to continue to do more. But the first year when we did it in 2015, with the Protestant committee being in charge of it, it expanded out and we had a whole bunch of people that ended up coming. Bruce, would you like to talk a little bit about what the Jewish and St. Louis Council do if you're still on? Bruce Levitt, are you still on? All right. So the Jewish, if I remember correctly, they typically on their Scout Sabbath will bring everybody to a single synagogue, a Jewish community center, and they will do their presentations of the awards there. The Lutherans will do them during their Lutheran services. So within the St. Louis Council, we have a bunch of different ceremonies and stuff going on as that above and beyond just being recognized in their unit or their own local faith group. And Saeed, if you are ready, we're gonna switch over to what your council in the Northeast does. I'm waiting to see if you come on screen. All right. So Saeed is the chairman of the Islamic community on Scouting, and he's going to talk a bit to you about what the Northeast region and his council, what they do, along with Islamic Scouting.
Thank you very much, Amanda. As a last-minute call, I am not that much prepared like you from the U.S. Council, but it's honor to me to be prepared and share some as well our faith and as well as my council. Um, First of all, the council uh, just started last year a religious relationship committee because we are the three people who is sitting in the National Religious Relationship Committee, myself, the Joe Browser, and Father Dan, and all the three on the national committee. So when I moved to this area, I requested that we should have the Religious Relationship Committee, and here you go, you ring the bell and you are rope in your neck. So we all the three there, and what we are doing that we are inviting every month different faith. Invitation goes to every faith, and they are, have the meeting and discuss about the how to scouting program, which is a religious emblem programs, bring the youth in the program and the church. And it's quite successful. We are still on the go, a couple other important things. But besides that, what as a National Islamic Committee, what we are doing, because as you see, this chart is on my the screen. This is produced by the BSA. We have this kind of big banner, and every council we urge that they should have the banner like that. And we take the every opportunity when they have the our festival, for example, Eid and the Ramadan and the Friday congregation. The purpose is that if you earn these medals, it's not only for keep and on the top of the pocket or just make effort that yes I did it, but to show the others that you earned with respect and dignity. So whether it's a Cub Scout, Boy Scouts venture, the family and the adults, they're all we requesting. We cannot mandate, but we requesting that try to use in a public ceremony. For example, every month we have the Cub Scout from the different area on the religious emblem. We asked the local council, the Islamic local council, as well as the Boy Scouts local council to provide some kind of facility so they can, even one child is getting, so there's a PR work. And so far, we are getting very cooperative efforts from the council as well as the Islamic Council on scouting. So, and also, I have noticed that the adult award or the religious emblem, kids, except the Cub Scout, they are wearing the knots only after they receive. I encourage all of these. When you go for ceremonial activities, use the real medals so at least the people can ask you. And as much as you have the exposure in the public, they will the other family member, other scouts, not non-scouts, will get the attention, and they will ask the question. Then you should be prepared that what you're doing and how the program is bringing to the youth ministry with the faith group and the scouting. So that's wonderful thing. And today I learned from the Amanda that what you are doing, and definitely I'm going to go back and the council bring this efforts, because there is a will, there is a way. So if you learn something every day, you are learning something. And I am happy that as far as I'm involved with the three councils: Mammoth Council, Pat Council, and Northern New Jersey. Northern New Jersey is 10 minutes from my home. So that's more easy than the Mammoth is 40 miles and the other one is 60 miles. So hopefully by the end of this year, through virtual meeting, all this time during the Corona, we have a meeting. We did not cancel the meeting, and we're making efforts. And here you go.
Thank you,
If any
Saeed.
question, anything you want to share, ask. I will be happy to jump into it, or if I know something and coming on my mind, I will come.
Feel free to drop questions you have on any of the faith groups, ideas on sharing into the chat box. While we see if any questions appear, I'm going to transfer it down towards Atlanta now. And John, if you want to share what your council and Baptist and everything else do from your end.
For the first component of it, I'll mention that the Association of Baptists for Scouting have been working, and for any scouter who is any scout who's involved in the Baptist church. Now, the reason we qualify it that way is because we know we have Baptist scouts who are in other units. So we know that they may or may not come from a Baptist church, and they receive, once they achieve either the rank of Eagle, the rank of Summit, or the Gold Award in Girl Scouting, they receive a congratulatory certificate from us. It's quite nice, and to be honest about it, it goes into a frame immediately. It's that quality. The other thing that I find most unique, and I haven't found too many other places that do this, the Atlanta Archdiocese Catholic Committee on Scouting is a very, very robust and has a great legacy of now 52 years. And they hold the Archbishop Scout Mass. So all of the middle school, I had to stop and catch myself because sometimes I say junior high, but middle school and high school recipients of any of their faith awards are recognized in a very, very nice ceremony that is officiated by the Archbishop. And one of the things that happens with that is that the location spins around into different areas of their archdiocese. And you have to realize that the Atlanta Archdiocese encompasses far more than just the Atlanta Area Council. It's literally the upper 2/3 of the state of Georgia. So when they do this, they have 300 to 400 people show up. And when I'm mentioning the 300 to 400, I'm being specific about those youth being recognized. You can only imagine how many of the family members are with it. They are very gracious in allowing a non-Catholic, that would be me, to go and they have me as part of this, just because they want to recognize people who are working for scouting, and especially in the religious education component. So those are the two things that I can just speak to just off the top of my head.
All right, thank you. Let's work our way across the country. Go for it, Saeed.
I have two questions from the floor. Let me answer this one. It's Robert. asking is the large religious emblem posters available for sale anywhere? It is not for sale. Is it just was giving out by the national office? If you request them, they might still have a. This can't you believe it? This was I had more than 2 or 3 decades, and I kept it and I reproduced this one by myself. So that's answer to that one. The other question is directly for the Islamic scholars for the girl. Any emblem, any awards you earn as a Cub Scouts, you can wear only at the time of the Cubs age. After that, you have the knot, which is a purple knot. You can wear that one. But if your daughter is moving to the Scouts age or your boy Scouts age, your son, then they can earn in the name of God, in the name of Allah, another medal. And the same thing is for any faith. Then you can wear that one, and you don't have to. You will not wear the Cub Scout thing. Same thing for the adult. If you are get the adult award, then you have the knots for the adult, and this award only you can wear on the ceremonial time. And I strongly recommend, like I said before, that you should, because that's your recognition.
All right. John, we've had a request for the certificate. If you'll send an image of it to me, I'll get it on that Google Drive.
I'll have to touch base with Ted Spangenberg, our president, but I'm certain we can do that.
Perfect. Okay. Northeast region. Anybody on here from the Northeast region that wants to share what their council does, or any faith group within their council? You can unmute.
I was sharing from the Northeast as well as my council, but if any other questions come for the Northeast, I'll be happy to answer.
All right. Moving to the Southern region. People want to share from the Southern region what their councils or their faith groups do. Okay. Moving.
I'd like to bring one more things in attention. The Northeast region started in the first, I don't know about the other region, they have the Council Recognition Award. And they score every religious relationship activities, every religious emblems, and on the basis of your highest achievement and recommendation, every year Northeast region give the recognition to that council. And then the same thing, the council can adopt the same program and give to the district. So this is a wonderful, I mean, you have to be engaged, all youth, from the Cub Scout to the ventures and the adult, because you receive once, then you are giving out to somebody. Whatever the community giving to you, you have to give back to them. So this is a good idea to Northeast region, have a couple years from the relationship committee for the Northeast region. They are doing that one, and that were very successful.
Okay. Robert, did you have your hand up?
Yes, I'm from Southwest Florida, and the Southwest Florida Council, we have a bishop who conducts a mass in May, and the religious ceremony for handing out the awards happens right after the mass. We give out Catholic awards to American Heritage Girls, Girl Scouts, Boy Scouts, Cub Scouts, explorers, anybody who earns a Catholic award. And also we then present the adults with awards that have been nominated and approved by us as a committee. This happens annually. We had 347 attendees in the last award ceremony.
All right, moving towards the central region. Oh, I see Bob from Georgia has his hand up.
Actually, I just had a thought as Robert was talking. And I'm wondering if it's better for the adult religious award recognition to do it at their place of worship, or do that as a council, as part of the council banquet, for their awards banquet. It
Do
might
both.
reach broad, or you could do both. That's true. But I hadn't thought about doing it at the council until I was listening to Robert talk.
Yeah. I've seen it both ways. I've seen it presented at councils in order to bring attention to religious relations. I've seen it done at the charter partners to realize, hey, they actually meet here and they do more than just use our basement. So I've seen it in both. I've also seen people be represented emblems as adults or even as youth in order to help bring that awareness to different programs. All right, we've made it to the central region.
Bob, it's really depend on your relationship with the council. If you are in the council, that's the reason that's very important. Every council should have a religious relationship committee. If you are in the council, you can put 1 cent there for the planning time, because when they are giving annual recognition for the award of merit and the silver beaver and everything, 1 or 2 or 3 add, there's not too much time. But again, who is asking and who is doing that? So keep tracking those things, and one day they will be amended.
Yeah. Well, as our council advancement and recognition chair, I think I have a way to do that.
Fantastic. Yeah, there you go.
Amanda, one of the things that we also include is that there are a few occasions that we have saved a particular individual who's been part of our religious relations committee long term, and we recognize him at the council's annual Duty to God breakfast. And Syed was very good in a previous presentation about surprising people. We try to make sure we surprise them, and that sometimes involves a bit of cloak and dagger with the family, but that's okay. The individual does not know about it until suddenly their name is called and they look around and, why is my family here? So that's just one other idea that we've done. We don't do it every time, but it is very meritable.
Yes, very much so. Okay, from Howard, Central Region does an all-faith brunch. You want to unmute and tell us about it?
I'm just learning. No, I don't do that. That's Capital Region. I'm from Northeast Illinois, and I'm looking for good ideas from everybody here. We acknowledge it at Scout Shabbat and such, but we just don't get that many youth and that many kids to the events. So I was just wanting to share that I heard from a colleague in the Capital Region that they have an annual brunch where all the faiths get recognized, and I think that's a wonderful idea.
Yes. Other ideas off of that, I know the Catholic faith and the United Methodists, we both have an event we call Bishop's Dinners. They're somewhat similar in that if we're trying to get new units started, we'll invite members of the clergy to come and have a meal together, learn about scouting. That is an excellent place to recognize 1 or 2 youth from each level of that faith's religious emblems program, and then ask those kids to talk for 30 to 90 seconds. What did it mean to you? What did you learn? It's a great reinforcement technique. Moving into the Central Region, Kansas City, I see Don's on here, and I know you do religious emblems classes and events. Do you do any type of recognition at those?
Yeah, we do, Amanda. We have a few religious emblems schools, groups that gather up in different areas of the council geographically. And typically when those schools have completed their awards, they do have a joint recognition time. Sadly, and I will take the brunt of this, we don't have a council-wide recognition of any kind. And you guys have taught me the importance of that. And I think our Religious Relationships Committee will look into doing something council-wide. So thank you very much for giving me that little push. I think that's a great thing. We try to have the scouts recognized with their medal at their place of worship, and the knots presented at a court of honor or a blue and gold or something of significance. But we haven't been doing a lot of things council-wide.
Anyone else from the central part of the country that wants to share stories of what you guys do? Okay, we'll keep working our way west towards the western region. Anybody out in the western part of the country want to share ideas? You know, there are several councils, and they might not be on here, but out in the western region, especially in California, I've heard of some pretty big events that are recognizing religious emblem recipients. They're very similar to the other ones we've talked about as we've worked our way across the country. We've had a question pop up. How do you find out council-wide who is a member of your faith? That's our challenge. Okay, every faith group is slightly different, but in terms of ones that are registered with the Boy Scouts, if they are, like, if you're trying to find all of the United Methodist churches that have scout units within your council borders, your council registrar, or going up to that faith group's representative. So in the United Methodist Church case, Stephen Scheid in Nashville, he's able to request those lists from the Boy Scouts National Office. Because there's so many people that are out there and they're wanting to make sure they're protecting contact information as well, you will need to go through either your Nationals Faith Committee or through your council office itself in order to request lists like those. Because if your name's John Smith and you contact the national office, they're gonna go, who are you? What's your position? Why are you asking for this information? Type of questions. But you can get lists like those. If you're looking to find out who's become religious emblems recipients, most of your faith groups, or if you're one of the PRAY religious emblems programs, they usually are tracking that information in some form or fashion. It may be tracked by a local diocese, it may be tracked nationwide. So unfortunately, there isn't the simplest of answers there, but there is ways of getting to it. I'm seeing a comment on a bishop's dinner being held and bringing in Girl Scouts and Boy Scouts for United Methodist Church. Those are usually very successful. Since we have time, I'll share about what a bishop's dinner is. So a bishop's dinner, you're wanting to get that list we just talked about of which of your churches in your council have an existing unit. You're going to want to figure out which ones have like really successful programs and see if you can find like one or two of them that can give a 5-minute presentation. Here's what we do. Here's how it works with scouting ministry. Then you're going to want to target as your attendees all of the churches that don't have the units, or if it's a church that only has a pack and they don't have troops or a crew and a ship, etc. Those are the people you want to target. It's going to be a lot of research because you're then going to go, okay, I know that I'm looking for First United Methodist Church. You're going to their website. Who is their pastor? Do they have a youth leader currently or something that sounds kind of like scouting in their group? Those are the ones that you're going to want to write up a letter and actually invite them. I'm pretty sure the Catholic group has a letter template. I know the Methodist group does, and that's on their national website at General Commission United Methodist Men, so GCUMM.org. General Commission United Methodist Men, GCUMM. If you look up Bishop's Dinner, they'll actually give you a tips packet on how to plan it out. If you can find either a park, if it's nice weather that has outside seating, if you can find a large church that has a big banquet area that they can set up lots of tables, a nice kitchen to run things through, do it that way. You can do it as an afternoon cake and punch type of a thing or as a dinner. If you can find a scout troop that wants to cook it, that's even more cool because all of a sudden you're showing that the scouts have developed those cooking skills through the program. Try to keep the cost as minimum as possible for people to attend. So if you can get the space donated or you can get some of the food donated, that is awesome, because that's one less barrier keeping people from wanting to come. Once they're there, you've got a welcome time. You want to have some scouting professionals, if it's just from the Boy Scouts or maybe the Girl Scout professionals, whichever groups you can get of those youth serving ministries, have at least one of them at every table. If you that way, as conversations are happening while people are eating, you have someone knowledgeable at that table that can answer questions. Your program, try to keep it to an hour. I know councils are large, it's a long drive in or a long drive out. Try to keep it so it's a pretty quickly moving program. You're not going through the details of here's all of the ranks and how to do advancement, here's religious emblems and how to earn every step. You're giving that 30,000 feet perspective, those testimonials, what have people learned through scouting. If you can get a higher up clergy member to come to them, that's great, because especially if they're one that's been involved in scouting either as a youth or currently as an adult, and you give them a moment to talk. You give the council scout executive or whichever head professional is there, you give them a moment to talk. You show some videos or photos while people are eating so that they're seeing those action points. It's basically a PR thing of here's what we do. It's an educational moment of here's how faith is involved in scouting. And then before they leave, there are commitment cards that are sitting on their tables. And it asks them, are you committing to start a pack, a troop, a crew, a ship? Do you not know which ones you want to start, but you want us to follow up and have a conversation with you? Do you have other people that we should be reaching out and talking to for your group? So you're asking what they want to start, who should you contact, what's the best contact information for you? And on the way out the door, you have scouts with baskets that are collecting that information. If you can get different groups to do like pens or something for the table that say something scouting on them, then they have a writing instrument right there. You've gotten rid of that roadblock. So you get rid of as many roadblocks as you can throughout the event, but set up those things. Those commitment cards are collected. The event is not over. They may all go home, but now's the most important part. You're having those professionals and a volunteer that actually is following up with those units. They're starting them up, they're getting them going. And once they're started, it's still not over. Continue following up with them for those first couple of years as you're building and strengthening their program. So that's a bishop's dinner. There's also been events like focusing on ensuring that existing units are strong. There are those events too that I've seen councils and faith groups do, where they bring out existing unit leaders, and I've heard councils call them Super Saturdays sometimes, or whatever day the week they're holding them on, where they help train them and do classes like we've been doing all week. Help strengthen those units to keep them up and going. The best thing you can do to remove roadblocks for keeping someone in the scouting program from being a young kid all the way up through they're out of high school and they're coming back to your meetings while they're still in college and helping to be that young adult mentor is to have one charter partner that has every single one of the units, or units that are right next to each other in town that communicate very well between each other so that they can continue to just move into that next program. So Super Saturday on selling popcorn. There you go. Howard, I see a hand.
Yeah, this is great, Amanda, but these are different times we're in now. Nothing can be face-to-face. And so bless your heart with all this information, but we can't do that.
And now we've changed, yeah.
So throw out everything about a dinner and everything else in an hour and a card. What we've got to do, and this group is bright enough, we can brainstorm something, but we've got to do something virtual. We've got to do something in 20 minutes or so that tells our story. And I think we need to reach out, and there's got to be a lot of one-on-one outreach, but that maybe there's a way of getting several clergy or education directors clergy are so busy as well. So Syed, when I did work with the Islamic Cultural Center in Northbrook, I worked with the president, not with the imam, but the imam did come out and speak to us, but it was the president who was able to work. And with others, I've worked with the education directors. So I think we need to find out who those connections are and start building them. And one thing I've done that's worked out really well, I can't believe it. I've done it at Scout Shabbat, and as I've said earlier, we don't get that many. But I've had something where I've said, everyone raise your hand if you've got a kid in scouting or know someone in scouting. And I get a bunch of hands up. I said, now raise your hand if you were a scout. And a lot of hands. And then now raise your hand if you know of anyone in scouting. You know what? Most of the congregation's hands are up by then. And that's the sort of thing that, first of all, makes me realize that scouting has impacted so many in the community. And we just need to build on that and try to find, what I need to do is figure out what's the next step from there, right? But the first step is awareness. And so I think we all need to keep that awareness and get that out there.
Yeah, I did have it pop up. How do we do it through Zoom? I think lunchtime may work for clergy. Middle of an afternoon may work for clergy. If you're looking at scouting leaders, a lot of us work all day long. So evenings or a weekend afternoon can sometimes be better. Judge your area or offer them at all the different times. Invite them to bring their own food with them and sit on Zoom and eat lunch while you're on the meeting. Whatever you need to do, and you can turn them virtual. Brown bag lunch and learn, lunch talks. There's a whole bunch of different topics and ideas. Get information in, bulletins, church newspapers, religious news. A lot of times if your faith has a newspaper or a website, they are looking for articles. Submit ideas, send them photos, that you've got the kids, their parents' permission of the kids in the photos, but send that information out. Place information in your congregation's newsletters, exactly. However you can get information out. So personally, I work for a company that we produce church directories around the country. And for every Protestant book that we send out, there is an advertisement for Pray in there. We're working to try to reach up with some of the other religious emblems programs, but we put it when we have blank spaces, which we do a lot of the times, we advertise the religious emblems programs for that congregation, regardless of whether they have scouting there existing or not. So things to think about, however you can get information out.
Amanda, two quick things that I thought of is I was trying to do my homework and trying to reach one of the others. In the Northeast Georgia Council, they'll have a Duty to God banquet. And that, again, is where they recognize all faiths within their entire council and invite them to come. And this extends even down to the Cub Scouts. So you can imagine this is a very busy event, and they've done it flawlessly for a number of years. It's really quite impressive to see. The other thing I'll just mention, it's not technically part of a Zoom-based religious emblems celebration, but we did find that doing our Duty to God breakfast virtually, we had a couple of things that were different. Normally we start at 7:30 in the morning. If you're familiar with Atlanta traffic, you don't really want to be, but if you're familiar with Atlanta traffic, we were impeded by that, starting and doing a breakfast. When we did an 8 o'clock virtual, we quadrupled the number of people that were watching. And just for fun, I was supposed to be at Bert Adams to start leading off the beginning of it, Bert Adams being one of our council camps. I put this picture up because this is Bert Adams behind me. And I just spoke, welcome from Bert Adams. And that's where everybody thought I was.
Perfect. All right. So I'm glancing through the chat. I think we've got a lot of the questions answered. Keep sharing resources. Dave, you've got your hand up. Are you still on? And you can.
I'm still here. Yeah. I don't live in the Western region anymore. I actually raised it when we tried to get to Western region. One thing, we lived in the Great Salt Lake Council, which also no longer exists. And that's where I grew up. Very limited exposure to most religions. But my son actually did scouting in the Catholic Church there. And one of the big things for them is we had the opportunity to go with his pack to a Scout Sunday celebration at the cathedral there in Salt Lake City for the diocese. And they had it where all of the different scouting units, be it Boy Scouts, Girl Scouts, Cub Scouts, all of the different ones from the entire diocese were invited to come in. They came in as far as from St. George and Green River. And so some of them had 5 and 6 hour drives to get there. They had the Knights of Columbus would form an arch with full regalia and their swords drawn up. And the youth would come up this little wire staircase out in the back and then come in down the aisle and up into the seating areas. Even if they weren't earning their awards, they could come in with their units and sit. And the reason they liked keeping the units together that way and inviting them to come as whole units was to encourage the boys and girls who had not yet earned theirs, especially the younger ones, to let them see what it was like and to see what recognitions were available. My son was actually, he was a wolf. And as we got up there and we sat in our seats, he turned to me, he says, "Mom, if their arms got tired, they would have chopped me in half." That's one of his big memories from doing that as a wolf, going up and doing it. But it's one of the things, he's now 28 years old. And from all of his scouting experiences all the way through, one of his greatest memories was going there and the celebration and being able to participate in that and then anticipate later going on to be able to work in something. Unfortunately, we moved from Salt Lake and he was not involved in Catholic scouting because the area we moved to doesn't have a large Catholic scouting program, and we aren't Catholic, so we didn't go seeking it out either. But it just was one of the neatest things, and they didn't, it was just a nice celebratory service, mostly patriotic music. If the youth had already earned their awards and they had been presented in their local parish, they were still invited to come and be congratulated by the bishop. If it hadn't been presented locally, they were presented their award, but every one of them had a little card, either with or without their award, so they knew, got their name called, had their unit recognized where they were from, and then got to go up and have it blessed by the bishop. And I thought, for me, that was really neat, because the church that I grew up in didn't have any pomp and circumstance of any kind. And it was just expected that every youth and adult involved in scouting would get their religious awards because that's just what you did. So for me to see what it took for others to have to actually show their dedication to their faith and work toward those emblems, and then what their reward could be at the end, was something that really has stuck with me through all those years.
Perfect. Okay, yeah, Mary Elizabeth, I see your physical hand. Go for it.
For many years before this last couple of years, when they've had the Duty to God brunch in National Capital Area Council, I'm chairman of the Protestant Committee, excuse me, and we have annually invited all of the recipients of the religious awards for our council to a service at 4 o'clock on a Sunday afternoon. And that way we try to avoid all the regular church services. And we also never do the first Sunday of February because it's Super Bowl Sunday. And the third Sunday is when everybody goes on their ski trips for the troops. So we avoid that by going on the second one. And we invite them to come, and if they get their names in early enough, their name goes in a program that's printed that they get to take home with them. And we choose the recipients to do scriptures and readings and different things from those early registrars. And then we have a reception afterwards and I talk to individuals about taking my training that I do for counselors, and we put up past Scout Sunday patches, and also put out the book that I've put together with all of the Protestant books in one notebook so that they can look and see what the next level is that they're going to be participating in. So it's a chance for them to interact with the Protestant committee, because this is one time when all the committee members just show up, and it's a blessing. And so we've done this successfully for many years, and they all say they look forward to it. So, but one thing, if you're getting the list from Pray, we get it from January to the third. So we do the first 3 quarters of the year. But I never understood why my son never got invited but one time until after I got on the Protestant committee. And then I figured out he earned it in the last quarter of the year. So make sure if you're doing it that way, you get the quarter before and go all the way through the quarter that you're doing.
I saw that, Randy, did you have your hand up? Okay. Then we've got about 2 minutes left. So Don, if you want to say what you've got your hand up real quick, then we'll try to get Saeed in also.
Okay, thank you. And I need to retrace, I had to go to the recesses of my mind here, but I failed to mention that the Heart of America Council in Kansas City, our Jewish friends, the 3 largest worship centers here in the Kansas City area representing the different practices of the Jewish faith, they all have a Scout Shabbat each year. And then we have dueling dioceses here in Kansas City. We have the Kansas City, Missouri Diocese and the Kansas City, Kansas Diocese. And they really function somewhat independently. But the Kansas City, Kansas Diocese has an archbishop. He's a former Eagle Scout and a Religious Emblems Award recipient himself. And he has a mass each year at the cathedral here in Kansas City. So those are big things that I failed to mention last time. Thank you.
Sweet.
All right, Saeed, did you? And you need to unmute.
Very quick. I wanted to see how many of us is keeping the track. If you have given awarding Cub Scout, how far he went to the scouting. That's very important. I still remember I have one when we have started 1980, and it's a long time. The child was 8 years old, living in New York, Staten Island, and that was my first religious emblem recipient of the Cub Scout. And I keep following him, and in middle of after several years, I lost the track, but the communication, recognition, and follow-up is very important. But somehow we get in touch again. Now that Cub Scout is a model for me to recruit the other leaders and get my message out to them, because now he become the attorney. His 2 sons are Eagle Scouts. His brother was Eagle Scouts, and he's a doctor. Both was the first recipient of the Bismillah Award. So we keep the track for these people, and very quick for the time for the clergy, because they don't have the time for they are running their own things in the congregation. But once a minute or half a minute, they don't mind if you are going to congregation, you go in uniform, take your award recipient and ask the father or the imam or the rabbi to, in a between some place, award this medal to this the boy. And you will see how much spark he will get, and he's get the publicity, and he will be introducing for half a minute, but when he has a mic, he will take the 5 minutes. And that's the advantage you are taking. You are in uniform, the congregation is over, then you mingle and get those people. So keep the track of this recipient. And the other thing is, don't avoid the other faith to coming to your congregation or your mosque. Very quick example, in Florida, I received the telephone call from one of the rabbi that I live in the area where is a 2 mosques. I wanted to start the scouting. I said, go ahead if you know anybody. He said, I have a good relationship. I said, then go. They start talking to them. Then I went there personally because those time was a National Council meeting in Florida. And my God, that unit is so much. They started with the 5 kids, but now they have 80 plus, and the scout master of the Jew, and the scout coordinator was the Jewish, and all the members of they still working together, and they recognize each other. So don't afraid to get the other faith involved in your program. That's most important.
All right. Well, thank you everybody for coming to this session, and we hope we'll see you at some more sessions this week. Bye, everybody.
Thank you.